32 teams, and dear God, we'll probably get them all out before the draft if only Tex gets his ass in gear. Isn't that right, Tex?
Yeah, it's definitely well past 32 days.
Yeah. We haven't quite hit our mark yet, but that's okay. It's like Shaq trying to shoot free throws. It's just not going to hit. It's all good.
No.
We are the backups. I am Seb Burnett. I am here with my co-host, Tex Glisson. Tex, say hello.
I'm here. I'm present.
Yeah, you are. Right now, for those of you who haven't listened to one of our 32 and 32-ish podcast before, it's just a nice little breakdown of each teams. We're going from the worst to first, and right now we are on the Seattle Seahawks. That's right, Pete Carroll's wonderful team that everyone loves so much. Not really. I'm a Falcons fan, and for some reason I feel like a lot of Falcons fans just hate Seahawks fans. I don't know if it was from 2 years ago, the playoffs, and they just talk so much shit, but then they got destroyed, which was great. Do you think that's what it was?
There's definitely a little bit of animosity from one regular season game from 2 years ago.
Oh, God, that was the worst.
It was pretty bad. It was a very bad game where Julio Jones was blatantly, there's a pass interference. I think it was 4th and yardage. You guys were mounting a comeback, and Richard Sherman and who was it, Earl Thomas or something like that, both just went up and obliterated Julio Jones, and there was no call. Yeah. So that was a good time.
It pissed me off a little bit. I'm pretty sure I sent you some text messages that were probably a little less, a little more than PG for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But what we do is just a nice little 10 to 15 minute breakdown. So let's do this shit. What are you drinking tonight, Tex?
Tonight I'm going back to Old Faithful because, to be honest, it's just a good beer. Atalanta from Orpheus. Hold on. Are you listening?
Yep.
Oh,
nice.
A little fizz all over the hands.
Nice. That's the best part when it gets on the hands. A little slurpy slurp. Nice. Well done, my man. I am drinking. So there's a brewery that I haven't been to yet in Georgia called Pontoon Brewing. I got to go sometime. They're pretty recent. I think they just opened up definitely within the past 6 months. I just saw this in my local Publix for the first time. It's their Galaxy Drifter American IPA. According to what I read here, they use a lot of Galaxy and Citra hops. So let's see if that changes. Let's see.
Ooh.
Oh,
that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, let me see. Let me taste it and give it a little. It's got a good smell. It's got a good IPA smell,
Right.
That's a good beer. It's got some bitter to it, though. That IBU has got to be pretty high. I'll have to check out. Oh, yeah, 48. Yep. It's got a nice little, it's a good little bitter. You know what I mean? You ever have those IPAs that just have like that kind of punch to it?
I guess there's a few weak-ass IPAs out there, but
how like dare you, sir? It's called a smooth IPA, you fuck. Anyway, yeah, definitely go check out Pontoon. We're gonna have to make a trek up there and see what their selection is. All right, so anyway, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks. What did you think about their 2017 season? Sum it up for me.
Seattle looked old. They looked uninspired, and they looked like everyone on the team knew that their run of dominance was over. With that being said, Russell Wilson managed to pull out a borderline relevant season for the Seattle Seahawks, and was having quietly an MVP caliber year yet again, with Swiss cheese for an offensive line, and like we talked about, an aging defense. So, I think they're trying to make that transition right now from being, one of those top defenses, going to the playoffs, making a solid run, to trading off some of those aging assets and rebuilding. So, that's what I thought. I mean, what do you think?
No, I'm right there with you. I was, if you've listened to the podcast in the past, I thought Russell Wilson had a great season. I think that like he did what he could with not a lot of weapons. You know, they've had consistently one of the worst run games in the NFL. They let Alex Collins go because they're dumbasses. Yes, he had some fumbling problems, but guess what? You work on it a little bit and you get, you know, Baltimore Ravens 2017 Alex Collins, which is, you know, would have helped that team a ton, maybe. But the biggest issue, I feel like it always comes down to the offensive line. No matter how good Russell Wilson is at scrambling, it's just not gonna work, man. You know,
Right.
like he can only do so much. You know, they have some okay receivers, Earl Lockett, and who's the other guy that everyone loves so much? No, Tyler Lockett. Sorry.
Tyler Lockett down.
Yeah.
Paul Richardson.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but for the most part, I mean, their wide receiving core is never going to be considered in the top, you know,
half
10.
of the NFL.
I was going to say 10 to 15.
I say half. I say top half of the NFL. Honestly, I mean, no offense to those guys, you know, but I just don't see it. And then you know, Russell Wilson started having a connection with Jimmy Graham towards the end of the season, just as a really good red zone target, which makes a ton of sense, really. And now Jimmy Graham's gone, and you know they've got some serious holes that they're going to need to fix in this 2018 NFL draft. Tex, like, what do you see some of the biggest holes being?
Well, I think it's funny that right when, you know, Jimmy Graham starts to connect with and have a little bit of chemistry with Russell Wilson, what was he? He's a free agent or he was cut, one of the two, and now he ended up signing with the Green Bay Packers. I mean, you know, the first part of his career, he was traded. They traded an offensive lineman, one of their best, I think it was their offensive tackle, to the Saints for Jimmy Graham. They had no idea what to do with him, how to use him properly, and by the time they could use him, he's gone. So, I mean, blows my mind. But outside of, having an additional threat on, you know, maybe a tight end or wide receiver, they have tons of need on their offensive line.
Right.
Their defense, they need just depth. They have literally from top to bottom, you know, offensive guard, offensive tackle, tight end, depth at wide receiver. I'm not impressed and not blown away by their running backs. They've got Mike Davis, CJ Promise, and Chris Carson. All have, you know, injury, a little bit of an injury history. We like Mike Davis.
Yeah, I like Mike Davis. I liked him coming out of South Carolina.
But, I mean, right when he started to get going last year, an injury. Same thing with CJ Promise and early in his career.
Well, I think a big part of that comes down to the offensive line, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, when you're getting hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, it's kind of hard to get something going, and you know they're already full speed ahead and knocking your brains out. But you know, defensive end, cornerback, linebacker. I mean, they have holes all over their team, and to make things even worse, this year they have a first-round pick. They have two fourth-round picks. I'm trying to think what else they have. What is it?
And then...
sorry. They have a first, a fourth, 3 fifth-round picks, and 4 seventh-round picks. So, you know, sitting at 18, you and I spoke about this before, trading back from 18 makes a ton of sense. Move back from 18 to the back half of the first round, if not completely out of the first round, and build some draft capital and just start, you know, reloading your team. What do you think?
No, I absolutely agree with you. And, you know, considering at that point in the draft, from what we've talked about in our mock drafts and kind of where we see the draft picks going, at that point, you're looking at a lot of offensive linemen, kind of the second tier, depending on how everything falls. You're looking at a lot of defensive tackles are going to be available. Some of the big names that I would look for the Seahawks to look at if they do stay at 18 or maybe even later, just depending, because I'm seeing some mocks where Josh Jackson falls even that far to the end of the first. And I think if you look at combine results, Richard Sherman is a bit bigger than Josh Jackson, but their combine results are very, very similar. And I absolutely think he fits with what they like to do on defense, and he kind of replaces that guy. They need a defensive end for sure because Michael Bennett's gone. I think Harold Landry's a possibility there in that position. In my opinion, I think Harold Landry goes in top 15. I just see it happening because he started getting a lot of hype now because NFL teams really like the idea of developing a player, especially someone with his versatility, capability, and he does have good skills. He just needs to improve upon his 2016 season because he got hurt, ankle injury, and then his 2017 season just wasn't great. I think he could do really well because they run a lot of that 4-2-5 nickel scheme in Seattle, and I think he has the ability to be a good defensive end there.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to make a little bit of a shocker for you. A little bit of a prediction. So Seattle is at 18, and I know last week we ended up, releasing our mock draft, 2018 mock draft 1.0, and I'm pretty sure I had the Seattle Seahawks trading back, but I had them trading with the Jaguars. I'm going to switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
I think they could end up trading with the Vikings, who are making a really, really strong push right now to win this year. I think they're right there with the Rams in terms of free agent signings and making splashes in the free agency. And the Vikings at 30 could not only trade and jump up to 18 and get ahead of teams like Dallas, Buffalo, the Rams, things like that. They could also trade their second round pick, which ends up being number 62. And on the draft calculator, it actually comes out to a pretty even trade. So Seattle would trade back and move to 30, and they would pick up a second round pick, which would be an awesome place at the end of the second to pick up Shaq Griffin.
Interesting. I like the idea. I like the versatility within their scheme. I mean, Yeah, for sure. Running him as one of those two linebackers in the 4-2-5, and I could definitely see his versatility, speed, and playmaking ability. I think he could fit. That's a good prediction. I like it a lot, actually.
Well, I'm throwing it out there. It'll probably be on our mock draft 2.0 coming out next week, but look for if you guys are following the podcast and the mock drafts that we're putting out, look for me to have Seattle trade back from 18 to 30, pick up a second round pick, and I think they could still get some, a viable starter at 30,
right?
And pick up a second round.
I do want to talk real quick before we got to get out of here. I want to talk a little bit about the whole Russell Wilson thing that you and I discussed earlier today about the Seahawks. Their front office going to Josh Allen's, pro days and having him in for a visit and everything. I think it's really interesting. This year the cut would be insane, but if they cut Russell Wilson next year, they save, I think, like 13, 15 million.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it from that perspective, and you and I spoke about this earlier a little bit. It wouldn't shock me. I think it could be a really good situation for both sides. Seattle is in no position to make any sort of run this year or next year in terms of going to the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson wants to get paid a lot of money and still has a lot of time left on the clock in terms of being a good starting quarterback. So why don't you either trade Russell Wilson or cut him possibly next season, let him go find another place to start, and you begin the rebuilding process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they suck next year, I'm thinking about trading Russell Wilson because number one, I think you're doing him a favor. Yes, he could be in his mind, he's Seattle ride or die right now, and that's fine. But at the base of everything, dude wants to win, and the Seahawks aren't going to win for another probably, in my opinion, 5-6 years before another cycle for them comes back around, unless they get really lucky. And I think, what are some landing spots for Russell Wilson, do you think?
Oh, crap. Who did we... Oh, so the one that I thought of right off the top of my head when we were talking about it was San Diego Chargers. He would still be on the West Coast. He'd actually be in a much more beautiful area. And the Chargers have Phillip Rivers right now. who knows what happens, this offseason. And they're a team that's in almost a borderline win now mode with that defense and the weapons that they have on offense. So I would love to see Russell Wilson as a Charger.
Yeah, I got one for you. Ready?
Okay.
Jaguars.
We had everybody go into the Jaguars.
Well, no, I mean, the reason being is that say Blake Bortles just doesn't work out next day. Say he regresses. And the Jaguars
I didn't know you could regress as Blake Bortles.
We can win with Russell Wilson. We can absolutely win with Russell Wilson.
What if they traded Blake Bortles and their first-round draft pick
for Russell Wilson?
For Russell Wilson.
I don't know. I think it'd be hilarious. But that's what we think. Yeah, for sure. Let us know what you think. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Just check it out at The Backups with the Z.
You can also get on YouTube, and if you don't like what we have to say, feel free to report our video, and YouTube will take it down temporarily, listen to our podcast, and then realize that, hey, freedom of speech is still part of our constitutional right, and put it back up. So go fuck yourself.
You know exactly who you are, fuck ass. But that's us. We are The Backups, baby.
Thanks for listening. Subscribe, fuckers.
Subscribe!
You've been listening to the Backups Podcast. Follow us on Instagram, find us on iTunes, and visit the website at www.thebackups.com with a Z for more.